Hey guys, it's the team here at Authentic Mission, and today we want to start off a new segment. We still haven't come up with a name for it. Maybe we'll do that during this, but we're going to be discussing different topics, basically from a libertarian standpoint. And our first topic today would be a Internet Bill of Rights. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And today we're going to be having the conversation with our good buddy
Keith Komar.
Hey Keith, good to talk to you again. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Basically, we've talked privately about the possibility about an Internet Bill of Rights, and you're against it, and I'm kind of for it, but I've been thinking about it since we started talking about it before. And basically, for me, I'm just going to put it on the table in a few points. The Bill of Rights thing was kind of inspired by the Internet Bill of Rights idea. Was somebody mentioned it once on CTV National News, and I thought about it, and right now free speech is under attack via the internet, and what to do about that. We've talked about Milo before, and I think we do need an Internet Bill of Rights because there's a very good documentary, and I hope one day people can find it. It's called Facebookistan, and it talks about all the tracking that Facebook does on its users. And this one guy, I believe it was in Germany, basically sued them to get all his all his internet records, basically, that Facebook had on him. So this is why I'm thinking we should have a bigger say on Facebook and not having to sign these 300-page agreements. And where could the good thing for the Internet Bill of Rights go? Where is the bad thing that you see with it?
Well, I agree that these terms of agreement that people blanketly sign are just awful. You're handing over all of your rights to all of your information when you're signing these. So I find these agreements very, very loaded, and they're one-sided. Mm-hmm. And people in their haste just sign them. So I think that needs to be addressed somewhere. But as an Internet Bill of Rights, for me personally, I don't see that being the solution to the problem. But definitely there's a huge issue with these terms of agreements and the things that we're signing over. Again, now, for me, the problem with an Internet Bill of Rights is the person who's going to be putting this together is open to government lobby money. Okay. And we all understand that the minute that you're leaning that table in a direction where someone can open their pocket and have money fall in it, it will happen. True. So that's my issue with an Internet Bill of Rights is what's going to happen at this point is once we start walking down that road and start having this type of legislation formed, there's going to be a lot of hands who are pouring money into that, and that Internet Bill of Rights is going to be more like an Internet Bill of Rights for the guy with the most amount of money. Mm-hmm. So that's my issue with that. Now, that being said, there's definitely a clampdown of freedom of speech on the internet. But from that, what we have to be looking at more is which provider is allowing us the most freedom, and then going with that format. So if Facebook is going to be very strong against certain items of free speech, we should be looking for a different platform to be doing that type of interface. So that would be my solution is having the opportunity for competition and having other providers allowing different forms, and then having people pick which one they choose from that. And I think that's where we need to keep the internet open and free, is allowing different choice in the providers, and then from that the people will keep the maximum amount of freedom.
What about the fact that I don't remember when he did it, but it wasn't that long ago, where President Trump, he basically rolled back some laws, privacy laws to your internet, and your internet provider can sell your browsing history.
I it's all part of that terms of agreement that you sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the huge issue. And again, now, in our haste to participate in these open forums, we're signing our rights away.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be a little more vigilant on the front end. And again, freedom is dangerous. It's not always easy to have these freedoms in your hand. And these other, like Facebook, is basically negotiating those rights and privileges away from you when you join up. So you have to be vigilant. But and again, it comes down to being able to make those types of decisions as a person.
Mm.
But I also think that there needs to be more awareness up front. And I think that's where the problem comes, is because it's very shady when you're signing these terms of agreement.
Have
They
you
just
ever?
put it in there and it's so long that you never get to the point of the agreement where they're talking about your personal information. It's just such a long, thick body of information.
Speaking of that, though, how big is it? Do you know?
The one on Facebook was huge. I read it. It took me like just about an hour to read the whole terms of agreement.
Mm.
It's huge, and it gets right into detail on what they're handing out and what you're signing away, and all of those things. They're there, but it's very long, and then you really have to pay attention to it to read it to understand what you're signing away.
Yeah. So, what about where do you think that a law should be passed where we can do what this guy in Germany did, where we can go after Facebook and say, no, we want the rights to our stuff? Or I'm going to use Instagram for an example because they are owned by Facebook. Did you know that when you when you got these models or whatever, these people that take pictures of Instagram or pictures on Instagram, and they let's say they're a photographer. Did you know that under the terms of agreement with Instagram, they own that picture?
Yes.
You?
And the same with all of your pictures on Facebook. Facebook owns everything that you upload.
That shouldn't be. That's just, if it's my stuff, they shouldn't own it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, and I understand that, but again, it is a public forum.
True.
That you're putting your information out to. So them owning it, I think, is a little bit too far. But again, part of the terms of agreement that you're signing, and what it should be is that the information that's uploaded should be public access. And once you've put it out there, it is now free domain for everyone. It shouldn't be that Facebook owns it, but if I post a picture on Facebook and you're, thumbing through my page,
yeah,
everybody should have access to that.
Okay.
It's no longer a private picture. You've put it onto Facebook. It should be public access.
Okay,
so I think the freedom that we're looking for would go one step further and say, and instead of protecting that information for yourself, it would be opening and freeing that information for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would go the other way, as opposed to clamping down that information.
Yeah.
It would actually free that information for everyone.
Do you think that, I don't know, let's be hypothetical here and say in the next 10 years that they are going to try and come up with an Internet Bill of Rights? Do you think that's being talked about behind closed doors?
You betcha it is. Of course it is. The powers that be understand that the most valuable tool or the most valuable resource that we have is information.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to want control of all of that information. And there will be an Internet Bill of Rights that comes out, I'm sure. And I don't think anybody that uses the Internet's going to like it very much. because it's going to come out, and as we've talked before, Stephen, when legislation comes out, every time you write a piece of legislation, it takes away from the people who can compete in that business.
Yeah.
You're going to be narrowing it down and making it a little bit harder and making it, hoops to be jumped through for certain businesses. And all it's going to do is restrict that open market and open freedom. And again, the biggest problem with that is the people that are going to be blocked out are the ones that can't defend themselves up front with lobby money.
Yeah.
Because as we know, government, as they write legislation and as they do things, their bills are swayed by the money that comes in. So that's what's going to happen, is you're going to see some lobby money come in, and then this new Internet Bill of Rights is going to be very skewed towards the people who donated.
You know what though, I would say that it's going to be a long time, because the internet is so wide that I don't think we could, in Canada we got a Charter of Rights and Freedoms and a Bill of Rights, right? In the U.S. they got their Bill of Rights, or their I can't think of the word, but I know you know what I'm talking about. I know that.
Yeah, they have a Bill of Rights, and we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's part of their Constitution.
Yeah, but I don't know if an Internet Bill of Rights would be possible, because different countries can access the internet, and some countries just plain simple don't have certain rights, and then laws are different, and I don't know if we could ever coordinate the Internet Bill of Rights.
Well, and I understand where you're going with that, but that has never ever stopped a government from forming a law in the past. If it breaks international treaties, that doesn't matter. They'll just put it all together, and then they'll force it through, and they'll skew the laws in the local areas to adjust and make that happen.
Yeah. Now, what about when it comes to, because I get your point about having more competition. That's one thing that the internet really did open up, and it's great. But one controversial thing that people need to think about is the fact that, and I've talked to you about this too, and again, I see your point where it boils down to research, but let's be honest, the internet, it made things a lot easier to be accessed, and my one thing that I brought up to you before was, if some controversies can happen with VHS tapes, then who's to say that they're not happening right now over the internet? In terms of certain things, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100% that there is issues, and there's going to continue to be issues with information and stuff being on the line or on the edge of what we would call a legal type of transaction for information.
Yeah.
But again, the more we restrict, the more we eliminate possibilities and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So a dangerous freedom over comfortable servitude for me.
Okay, I see that point. And just so we're more clear with the any viewers of this video, maybe I shouldn't have talked in circles. Let's just put it on the table. I've mentioned it once before on YouTube, but there was the controversy in I believe it was the late 80s, wasn't it, with Tracy Lord, or was that the early 90s?
Late 80s, early 90s. The information came out in the 90s about her, but she had done this in the early and mid 80s when she was underage and doing porn.
Yeah, and again, if that can happen in the days of VHS tapes, then who's to say somebody's not buying a video camera right now, hooked it up in their apartment, and not checking their records and being stupid and hiring these models that claim they're 18 and they're not. You know what I mean?
That's right, and that's going to happen. So now we do have laws against that kind of stuff already.
Yeah.
And we should be very active in prosecuting people who don't follow these rules. Now, is it a company who's making this film? Is it their fault if a girl comes in with fake ID and all that type of stuff and promotes that she's 18?
Yeah, good point.
I contend no, but she should be also held very accountable for these actions too.
Yeah. Anybody that lies deliberately about their age and puts everybody at risk, they should be held to a higher account versus the person that just stupidly didn't double check the ID.
Exactly.
Because I don't, like I've talked to you about it before, I don't want somebody that's just, I don't know, let's say a 35-year-old person sitting there, they go on, let's say Pornhub, they legitly just want to watch a video and then whoops, turns out that they accessed this and they didn't know it, right? So that's...
And should he be held accountable for that? Is it his fault? He's trusting a provider that's supposed to be verifying this information.
True. That I'm glad we see that way, because imagine, I don't know if anybody ever was arrested for the whole Tracy Lords thing, but I do know that they told, there was a news broadcast how they actually warned people on the news, get rid of any of these videotapes that were made previous to this date. So, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they were serious. If they catch you with those tapes after the warning, you're going down.
Yeah, and like, I'm just, for me, I'm glad we see it the same way, because yes, that guy that inadvertently didn't know shouldn't be held to a higher account, but at the same time, we, like, it's not. Again, it's not his fault or whatever.
No, that's right. It's not his fault. Stephen, I need 2 minutes. If you can bear with me, please.
Yeah. Okay, so, like, what do we do to, like, protect, freedom? Let's go from the more controversial to the less controversial at this point. What do we do to protect freedom of speech and online bullying, at least for the online bullying part, at least for like teens, because they don't have, unless you have talks with your children. A lot of parents, I think, are looking at the internet like say maybe my parents would have looked at TV and just been like, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree, and what a dangerous format to just let children run wild on, because it's not TV, it's individual content. Yeah. Television has a whole bunch of rules on what can be aired, and the internet doesn't have that. And I prefer the fact that the internet doesn't have that, so the information is free. But with that comes a whole lot of responsibility in how to make sure that information is safe and disseminated properly to children. So I think what we need to protect those children and to provide a better format, instead of clamping down and regulating it, we need to have it a lot more open. So that if you're under 18 years old, you can't have an account without your parents participating in it, or you can't have that open access without having an adult to be there. And now again, because kids are going to be kids, they're going to fake a lot of that information if they want to get on, and they're not allowed.
I don't even think you're allowed on Facebook.
That's where we need to have the punitive and the penalties is anybody who's using the internet without proper authority should have their wrists slapped. Yeah,
because you're right. A lot of kids. I I know a friend of mine. Their kid was on Facebook at like 12 years old, and I don't even think you're allowed on Facebook till you're 14.
You're not, and I had the same problem with my children. Is that they wanted on, and I restricted them from it. And then because they're intelligent and ingenuitive, they set up emails that said that they were old enough, and then they basically walked around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did it anyways. So that's what I have a problem with prohibition, is that it doesn't matter that you have good intentions when you make this prohibition. what's going to happen is people are going to find a way around it.
Yeah.
So every time you force them into an illegal situation or a choice like that, people will make that choice and they'll go around any type of wall you've put up. So that we have to be mindful of that when we pass these legislations and we move forward. Is that what are they going to do to get around it? Are we putting them in harm's way by doing this? And is there a better way to handle it? And of course, for me, it's always education. If you have an engaged parent, like when my children, I'll continue to use that as an example. When they set up their fake Facebook accounts and they were, doing their thing on the internet and they weren't supposed to, eventually I caught up with it.
Yeah.
And once I caught up with it, we closed these accounts and we changed the passwords to something that I had access to. And then I went in afterwards and I changed the password again and I took control of these accounts.
Yeah. Sorry,
it's a lot of parenting issues.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming parents for not being engaged because the world we live in right now, it's very hard to stay focused when you're just trying to keep a roof over your head.
Yeah.
So I get that. But again, vigilance is always important. And the more you're involved, the better off your result is going to be. So we need to be, very heavily involved in our children's internet lives to see what they're doing and ensuring that they're surfing properly, they're engaged in proper sites, they can disseminate between fake news and real news. There's a lot of parenting that has to go on in that process.
Mm-hmm. Well, you brought up one good point actually. Do you on it, like you said, figuring out fake news and real news? Do you honestly think that the kids look at the news, or were you just using that for an example?
Well, I don't think that they look at the news per se, but they're very media oriented, very flash information oriented.
Yeah.
So you can just put a picture of something quickly on the internet with a caption, and it doesn't have to be anywhere near the truth, and that'll get picked up and sent around just because it's cool.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to work with our children. I'm very, involved with my kids on the internet. So when they're surfing and I see something that comes up, or there's something that I would question, I point it out and say, hey, look, have a look at that, and let's research that and see if that's real or not. And rather than say, oh, you can't go there, or being very heavy-handed with it, I try to have the conversation and walk through the process of what I would do. But you're right, there are a lot of children, they're not watching the news. But the thing from that is they pick up on the memes.
Yeah.
If there's a meme against Trump, or a meme against Clinton, or a meme against Trudeau, or, they pick up on the short messaging really well and really quickly, and they'll spread that around fast. Yeah. So that's why you should always have your kids knowledgeable about what fake news looks like, because it's real easy to have that stuff disseminate quickly if you're not paying attention.
Yeah. Now let's go to you brought up a good point. Again, the people that are on the internet nowadays are very flash oriented, very quick. Everything's got to be quick, and fads go quicker than I've ever seen before with the internet. But one thing that I've been seeing a clampdown on, and we briefly touched on it, is freedom of speech being under attack on the internet. And also, I would say content, because I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you two examples. One for free speech. We've touched on it before, but Mile, I can never pronounce his last name, but
Yiannopoulos.
Okay, there we go. He was kicked off Twitter for attacking Leslie Jones and calling her an ape. And at first I was, good for Twitter. And then I thought about it, and it's like, what does this send a bigger message to? For freedom of speech
Well, it doesn't send a very good message for freedom of speech. The message it sends is that if somebody's going to press the issue on the fact that they don't like your information, And rather than Twitter stand up for the open forum, they'd rather just censor you.
Yeah.
Because it's easier that way.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with law or right or wrong. It has to do with ease of putting that issue to bed.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I post something that's controversial and I offend 50,000 people by it, it's easier to just censor me than it is to explain to the other 50,000 people that, no, that's wrong and he's entitled to that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's really what the problem with that censorship is, and it's not that Twitter doesn't agree with Milo or Twitter feels that what Milo said is wrong. What Twitter is saying by that is we won't stand up to any type of public pressure.
Yeah. Would you say that it got a little bit more attention because it was Leslie Jones?
Of course.
Yeah.
And anything to turn it into something racial so that you can splatter it over the news for longer than 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what this is. It got blown out of proportion because he used the 8 comment.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's got to turn everything nowadays into bigoted racial slurs. Everything is bigoted. Everything is racial.
Well,
I'm even starting to hear it now in my life, and I'm probably the least bigoted and the least type of a person like that. And yet people are starting to, say, hey, you're a bigot. Because I
to you? Really?
I get it. It comes, and it's hard for me to swallow most days, but it's real, and we have to understand that that's just the way that the left-leaning people are protesting when they're not happy with what you're saying. They just tell you you're not allowed to say it anymore, and and it's not a logical argument. It's like it hurt my feelings. So you're no longer allowed to use that type of language because it offends me.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be very careful as we approach that. Because I'm very sorry for people that they take offense to certain comments. But words are words. And if we start restricting words, that's almost the end of it for our freedoms right there.
Yeah. Well, the other example I wanted to give you was, and this affected me. It still kind of does affect me. Where I do a variety of videos on my YouTube channel. I did one video about like when you die and your will, and stop making, like, truly look at the family situation as a chance to come together instead of fighting over, well, Jimmy wanted me to have the house. Well, no, he wanted me to have the house, and you're just gonna sell it, or... You know what I mean? So I was trying to do a video once about, coming together as a family instead of apart in death. You know what I mean? And for some reason, YouTube sent me a video, or not a video, but an email, and they said, okay, we're not taking this video down, but we're taking away your monetization, which is my ability to make money because your topic was controversial or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what?
That's kind of crazy, isn't it? That they can just say, well, we're going to allow the content, but we're not going to pay you for it.
Yeah, they did that to 3 of my videos. They did another one where I was talking about drugs and media propaganda, where I'm going to give you the cliff notes, where I was basically saying, for all the people that say that crime shows promote drugs and promote this and that, if you really look at it, they're not promoting drugs, and they're not promoting that because the viewers miss the message. Why? Because, like, I'll give you an example. Weeds ended where, spoiler alert for anybody out there, Weeds ended where Shane became an alcoholic and, a recluse, and then Sopranos ended up where possibly Tony Soprano was shot. And then Sons of Anarchy ended where Jax got killed by getting hit by a truck.
Yes.
So they took away that monetization on that video as well.
It's hard to swallow when you're looking at it and you're thinking, man, where is free speech and what happened to it?
Well, this is potentially one day gonna be my 100% living on YouTube, and people do that. So they're taking away my living is the way I look at it.
Oh, and they're pointing you in the direction that they want you to earn that money. Is really what they're doing. They're saying, no, we're going to allow you to make money, but we're going to chastise you when you step outside of our acceptable box.
Yeah.
So definitely that's a problem, and I don't think that an Internet Bill of Rights would cure that issue. I think it would only conflate that problem.
Mm-hmm.
You as you sign these things into law and you make legislation, you're actually empowering people to discriminate. I'll give you a great example of that. Everybody thinks that the Bill of Rights that came out for in the 60s, the Civil Rights Movement and the Civil Rights Act of 64, everybody says what a great bill that was to advance freedom.
Yeah.
And I stand on the other side of that and say, no, actually, that was a bill that actually authorized racism. It basically said that you can no longer openly have a business that doesn't allow a black person and doesn't allow a white person and doesn't allow a Mexican to come into your store. So what you've done is you've taken that person's ability to publicly show that error in their mentality.
Yeah.
You're forcing that person to allow that the black person into the store that they have a problem with. And what that's going to do is that breeds and fosters even more hatred.
Yeah.
So by passing the Civil Rights Act in 64, instead of bringing the communities together, it actually started the rift, a really deep rift between the black community and the white community. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it now in the streets really bad with BLM and with Antifa and all of these extreme groups who have been pushed into the shadows by these legislations that say you're not allowed to discriminate anymore.
Yeah.
And these groups have formed in quiet. So by passing the prohibitive law to stop people from having this aberrant behavior, you haven't changed the behavior, you just pushed it into the shadows.
Okay. Good
so
point.
all of these legislations, we have to be very careful and mindful of what we're really doing. And we need to get a better understanding on what prohibition actually does. Because prohibition really doesn't change behavior. All it does is it makes that behavior very dangerous now because it's got to be done quietly. And people don't stop doing it. They just have to find a different way to do it, that's all.
So do you think, like, off the top of your head, for me at least, for the YouTube and for people that are stopped on YouTube, do you think we should just...
You should be able to sue them.
Okay.
It's a civil lawsuit at that point. They've offered you a forum to make money, and it's a voluntary agreement. You post the videos so that they can use that to pump their advertising, and from that you share an economy.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're still making money off of advertising on your videos, but they've denied you the ability to make any money off of it because they're saying the content is questionable.
Well, a lot of famous YouTubers are getting fed up because the YouTube, after they were sued by Viacom, they implemented these new policies where for copyright, and there's this thing called fair use, and there's a lot of critics on YouTube, right? So there's, some guy would post clips of the movie, not the movie, but clips of the movie to show his point. And that would go under fair use. Well, his video still got pulled and his monetization got taken away, even his ability to make videos past 15 minutes.
Yeah, so and then he should have civil recourse.
Mm-hmm.
He's entered an agreement and they've basically reneged on the agreement.
Yeah. Do you know if there's internet for anybody that's listening out there, and actually for me, because I'm wondering now, is there internet? How do I say it? Internet lawyers out there, or is there like?
Oh yeah, there's and then they're developing, right?
Yeah.
There is lawyers who specialize in internet law and internet freedoms and internet rights and infringements. But they're new, and there's not a lot yet, but they're coming. And there's definitely legal people who specialize in this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's your avenue. So I suggest that anybody like yourself who want this business to be their income and they want to protect that right to make that income, and if you're finding any type of infringement, as much as I don't agree with lawyers, they're your best avenue through these, because they actually specialize in these things. They spend the time on the law that matters. So there is law out there, and there is legal recourse for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anybody has taken the time to do it, because here's what happens at the end of the day. It's kind of like I call it the 2 jug theory. You're gonna fill up a little can of Coke at the bottom with water, and you're starting with a 10-gallon jug.
Yeah.
So the idea is you're gonna pour that 10-gallon jug into a 4-liter pail, and you're gonna keep pouring until that 4-liter pail is full, regardless of how much overflow happens. And you're gonna dump the rest of it into that can. So it doesn't really matter how much you started with. All you're gonna get at the end is just this one little can. So I say that with in comparison to, say, YouTube. So YouTube has the 10-gallon bucket full of content that's come at them.
Yeah.
So for them to bleed off some money, all they really have to do is make sure that when they pour that content into the monetized bucket, that 50% of that overflows and flows away.
Yeah.
And you're not going to push the issue, because really it's a difference between making 300 this month and 400. So you don't see it as, it's not a big loss and we'll work around it. You know where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
You're not taking it. It's not worth the effort for you individually to get the lawyer, to go through the process, and to get your money back.
Yeah.
But they're doing that to 50 million people.
So
daily.
Class action kind of thing?
Well, yeah, you would need to do the class action, but what I'm saying is that the reason that they're getting away with it is that instead of taking $50 million from one person, they're taking $1 away from 50 million people a month.
Yeah.
So it's not cost effective for any of you to sue them to get your money back, but very cost effective for them to continue to marginalize your information and allow them to continue this extra profit.
Yeah.
Banks do it all the time with their fees. They'll set you up with an account that costs $6 a month. They won't tell you that if you open one that costs $10 a month, that everything is included.
Yeah.
But they'll hook you up with that first one for $6 a month. Then you get your bill at the end of the month, and you have $20 in fees.
Yeah.
And then you go and complain, and they go, okay, well, we'll set you up with this other account, and we'll knock some of those fees out. Mm-hmm. And from that, what will happen is 2 or 3 out of 10 aren't going to push that issue.
Yeah.
So 30% of the people they make the extra money off of. And it's good enough for them, and it's worth their time to do this. Because en masse, that's millions of dollars a month.
Yeah.
With very little resistance. So that's where these problems are. So yeah, class action would be awesome. But again, how do you get that interest involved at such a weak level of monetary investment?
Mm-hmm.
So and that's how they win these things. How do you protect people against that? You really just need to have you got to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
So someone has to take the time and say, you know what, I might lose a little bit of money out of this lawsuit, but gosh darn it, we're going to do what's right.
Yeah.
And then that's what needs to happen on that issue.
All right. Well,
but yeah, I'm going to have to let you go, Stephen, because I've got to go to work now today.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'll let you go for now. Maybe we'll do a part 2 with the internet thing, but you brought up a lot of good points. But our next topic there will be interesting. We'll surprise the audience with what that will be next time, and I'll talk to you throughout this week to see when you want to do it.
You betcha, Stephen. And again, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for the chance to come up and give my opinion.
Thank you, man. Have a good day at work.
Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care.